I learned meditation from Emily Fletcher.
I've been meditating for, 14 years at that point. 50% of people woke up and just meditated for 15 or 20 minutes. How different the world would be, how different society would be.
There's some part of your
How
awareness.
I feel right now.
And some part of your awareness is like, oh, well, this is going to be great in a scene someday. Light Watkins.
Yes, sir.
Thanks
Happy
for
to be
being here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we could line this up.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. I know you kind of live and bounce around all over.
Yeah. I'm based in Mexico City, but I come to Los Angeles. I consider people say, where are you from? So I grew up technically in Alabama.
Okay.
But I say Los Angeles because I've been out of Alabama for a long time.
Yeah.
Since I was 17. But I lived here for like 16 years. So
Yeah.
This was technically the last place that I was living prior to going nomadic in 2018.
Okay. Yeah, I even get that. Like, I'm from Georgia, but when people ask, like, really the answer is like LA. And you came to LA when you were 17?
No, I came here when I was 29.
Okay.
So my sort of latest work has all been around minimalism, being nomadic. And interestingly enough, I had my second nomadic adventure leaving. I was living in New York City and I sold everything after living there for like 7 years. I was in the fashion industry and decided that it was time to do something different. I'd been dabbling in yoga and meditation. And so when I was 29, sold it all, moved to Los Angeles with just a bag and started over. And that's when I got into what I'm doing now, which is the yoga and the meditation stuff.
Yeah. Wow. That takes a lot of, commitment and like courage to give all the things up and start fresh with just like your body in a backpack.
Yeah. It's also a situation of, the New York situation was kind of interesting because, and I'm sure you can relate to this, I was dating this woman, this beautiful woman who ironically I just was hanging out with this past weekend as friends at this conference that we were both at. But we were young and we were dating and we were both living in Harlem. And then it just kind of ran its course after 3 or 4 years. And she started dating someone else. And it was very emotionally challenging for me to be in close proximity to this other person. Because this was my first time going through something like that. And I just had to get out of the area. So literally, I had been thinking about moving to Los Angeles for maybe a year prior because I had some friends who had exited New York and relocated out there. But it took the pain, the heart-wrenching pain of that relationship ending to kind of catapult me out of that and into this next phase of my life. So, but the universe doesn't give a shit, whatever it takes. And if you resist your path, then it'll get you out there one way or the other.
Yeah, I love that because, yeah, man, pain, that like deep, raw, exposing pain is usually a great catalyst for like necessary growth.
Change, yeah.
For that for those changes that needed to happen,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't do unless you were so uncomfortable from the pain.
Right.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and I started teaching meditation many years later, and I would say probably 95% of the people that I've taught, and I've taught thousands of people at this point, they came to me because they were in some sort of pain. Whether it was emotional, spiritual pain, physical pain even, the doctor saying you're overweight or you're going to have a heart attack or you have an anger management issue, you have to do something different. So
that's very true.
Yeah. So I would say pain is one of the go-tos. That's one of the universe's go-to change agents. And, and that's why I have a hard time looking at this curse type of ideology, like, oh, that was a curse or you're cursed, or I see everything as a blessing. Whether you're experiencing some boon in your life where something wonderful is happening, or whether you're going through some kind of struggle, like this is a blessing in disguise, and it's going to catapult you to the next stage of your path.
Yeah, I've dropped into a lot of that the last few years. I will say, I mean, it's uncomfortable as shit when it's rough, when everything's breaking down around you, and you can't even see the way through. Like it's a scary place to be when you just have to put your feet in front of the other. Like you can't actually see the path. You can just see the step in front of you. But man, I am grateful. I am grateful when it finally breaks through and the fog clears. Like I've learned more through my pains and heartbreaks and like big life changes, I've learned more about my character and myself and like made better changes of myself through those times than when everything was fine.
Especially as an actor. I mean, you know, you can use that in a role sometime. Like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going through it.
Dude, it's so true. Actually, it's so true. It's such a weird part about being an actor that every actor knows, which is like some deep wound happens to you in life,
like, but wait
and
a
there's
minute.
some part of your
How do I
awareness
feel right now?
and some part of your awareness is like, oh well, this is gonna be great in a scene someday. It's such a sick thing. You're like, oh, this is good trauma.
Yeah.
This is good for me. Yeah, that's a funny little self-awareness thing when it happens, when I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
am I really like stoked that I get to pull this out someday?
Yeah. I get that as a writer too, you know, because I think to myself in the back of my mind as I'm going through it, wow, I'm probably going to write about this at some point. It's going to lead to some sort of epiphany. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to remember these details because this setup is what's going to make the payoff that much sweeter.
Ah, man, life, man. That's it.
But everybody has their version of that, you know? If
that's
you're
it.
into rapping, this is going to be a rap song one day.
That's
if you're
it.
into dancing, this is going to become choreography one day.
That's it.
If you're into cooking, you know, this is going to inspire something, some way of presenting the food one day.
That's it.
So, you know, you just have to use this stuff.
Yeah.
Don't rush it. Just know that it's incubating something beautiful that's going to come from it.
Yeah, and that rawness you feel when everything's kind of stripped away from a heartbreak or a grief or a loss, whatever, that rawness, like I have found it's easier for me to hear what I want actually in those times, or at least what I don't want.
Yeah.
And so like it's like you knew like, oh, I don't want to stay in proximity to this pain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then like listen to that. That's the time where that truth is actually like worth like listen.
Yeah.
Get in there.
Yeah.
My mom actually, I had been meditating for a few years and my mom was never down.
Mm-hmm.
And then my parents got divorced and my mom was going through that pain. And I said, hey, you know, Emily's in town. You want to go learn how to meditate? And it was through her being in that state of like, yeah, yeah. For her, she kind of never was able to sleep well, ever, her entire life. She was always thinking at night. And, you know, through that heartbreak of the divorce, she needed to sleep, you know, like, whoa, you can't just be up, like you need to sleep. And yeah, I just floated it one more time because I had offered it to her before, like, hey, I'm really loving meditating. It's really changing my life for the better. Do you want to do it? And she was never down. And it was just through that raw vulnerability of the pain that she said, yeah. And now she is more committed to her practice than I am. She's a better meditator than I am.
Actually, same thing happened to me. My mom, I learned meditation with my teacher, who's Emily's teacher's teacher.
Yes.
In Los Angeles. And then my mom came to visit once after having gotten divorced from my dad. My dad asked her for a divorce. She took it very hard, understandably. And she's obviously heard me talk about meditation before, but never gave it a second thought. And then came out here. I said, hey, guess what? My teacher's in town. You want to come and just have a listen to what he has to say about meditation? And she was open to it. And, you know, people in Alabama, there's more snowstorms than meditators in Alabama. So
for sure. And there's no snowstorms.
And there's no snowstorms.
For people who don't know.
But yeah, she was surprisingly open to it. She came, she was receptive. He started talking about, you know, this idea that happiness is inside and not based in external circumstances. And she just was like really into it. So she learned meditation, which was a really amazing experience because it seems like that's what she came out here for, was to learn meditation, even though in her mind, she was coming out here just to hang out with her son.
Yeah. And what a practice. It's with you forever. And for me, it's been like super foundational and supportive. Can you tell me about your journey with becoming a meditation teacher?
Yeah, man. So when I got out to, let me start back in New York. When I was in New York, I was working in fashion. I was never like a supermodel or anything close to that, but I was a working model. I waited tables for a little bit and then...
You're handsome.
Thank you. And then I got a lucky break or two and was able to quit that job and started doing, you know, a few gigs a month. And that's all you really need as a model.
Yep.
Is because each gig is going to pay you $3,000, maybe $2,000.
Yep.
If you do 2-3 of those a month, pay your bills,
Yep.
have a little bit left over. So I had a lot of downtime when I wasn't going to castings. And it was in that downtime that I started going to yoga classes. And it wasn't because I had some kind of spiritual inclination towards yoga. I was literally in my gym. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was lifting weights. I was doing shoulder presses on the machine. And I kept seeing these beautiful young 20-something-year-old women standing outside of the exercise room, barefoot, holding these little rubber mats. This was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I was like, where are they going? And what's going on? And why are they so hot? And they started filing into this room. And my hormones told me to go into the room
want to go
and
to
see
there.
what's happening in that room. And I found myself in my very first yoga class. And I was looking around. I was like, man, I'm the only guy in this class full of women who have their asses in the air for 90% of the class. I was like, this is amazing. And so that was what I was into. I wasn't into the yoga. In fact, I didn't really like the yoga very much because I was never very flexible.
Yeah.
And the teacher kept making an example out of me, trying to contort me into these positions, and it was very uncomfortable. But something told me to go back, and I went back. And then eventually, after about 4 or 5 classes, I actually started showing up for the yoga because I never really stretched like that. And it felt really good. And I liked what they were talking about with the whole spiritual stuff. And so that was the seed that led to me becoming more of a, quote, spiritual seeker.
I love that.
And those yoga teachers started inviting me to meditation circles. And there weren't that many hot girls in the meditation circles, just as an aside.
Yeah.
So I was really going there for the
meditating.
experience of meditation. But nothing really seemed to be happening in the meditation for me personally.
Yeah.
So I would be the one in the class kind of peeking around like, what is this? Is anybody else experiencing anything? Because I'm not experiencing. I'm just literally staring at the back of my eyelids. And this was back when you would have your back straight and your fingers be together. You were sitting with your legs crossed, and it was just really painful. But I kept reading these spiritual books. Everybody kept talking about, samadhi, nirvana, meditation is associated with this inner peace. I didn't get it, but I figured maybe it's just a situation where you got to do it more. Maybe eventually you get past this threshold, whatever. So then cut to me moving out of New York, graduating myself from the modeling situation, and deciding I'm going to become a yoga teacher. And even though I was like, I could barely even touch I couldn't touch my toes. I was probably about 6 inches away from my toes if I bent over full on.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my secret. I was like, but something kept saying, go to a yoga teacher, just keep taking the next step. So I go to this yoga teacher training in Larchmont at the Center for Yoga, which is one of the oldest yoga schools in the city. It's no longer Center for Yoga, now it's Yoga Works.
Okay.
And I'm trying to hide the fact that I can't touch my toes. And nobody really says anything about it. But I knew that was what was going on.
Yeah.
And so I felt like a dentist who was afraid to smile, like missing 2 front teeth.
It's a great analogy.
And but what I lacked in flexibility after the training, I made up for in hustle, and I started going everywhere to teach yoga. I was in Pasadena on one day, and then later on that day I was in Venice, and then I was in Los Feliz, and I was just wanting to get as much experience as possible.
Yeah.
And then I finally landed at Crunch Gym and Equinox and teaching yoga there. And that's when I met my meditation teacher. And simultaneously, I was becoming a very popular yoga teacher. And I realized that my secret, where I couldn't touch my toes, was actually one of my superpowers. And the reason is because I had to learn how to teach yoga through just articulation. I couldn't demonstrate. I didn't want to demonstrate, I should say. And I was able to speak to other people who were very inflexible, which is most of the people who go to yoga.
Yeah.
And so people really connected with my messaging. I was saying stuff like, it's not about how far you can reach, if you can reach your toes or not. It's about, how you can overcome the limitations in your life and blah, blah, blah. And stuff that I needed to hear for myself.
Yeah.
And anyway, this all culminated in me going on a hike with a friend of mine who was also a yoga teacher who knew my secret. And he said, we were at Runyon Canyon, in fact. I'll never forget this day. And he said, how does it feel to be one of the most popular yoga teachers in Los Angeles who can't even touch his own toes. And man, that was just like, just like stabbed me right in the heart.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to think of the perfect spiritual answer to his question, but nothing was coming to mind. And then he eventually answers his own question. He said, you know, a wise man once told me, you don't have to beat Michael Jordan in a game in order to be able to coach him to a championship. And he happened to be the guy that introduced me to Tom Knowles, who became my meditation teacher. And that's what got me into this what I felt was accessible form of meditation.
Yeah. One of the most accessible forms.
I would say the most, but I'm biased, of course.
Right. I'm biased too, because I'm in it too. It's for people who don't know, like, I mean, what's the umbrella term? Vedic meditation.
Yeah.
For those at home who hear meditation and feel like light's like first experience, which is like I'm sitting there and what's happening? Like nothing's happening.
I'm not staring at your eyelids.
I'm not experiencing. I'm just thinking.
Waiting on the time
and
to
I'm
pass.
Uncomfortable.
In pain.
But also like I want to do this, so maybe I just keep committing to this.
Yeah, white knuckle my way through it.
Yeah, that's been meditation for a lot of people, and it was somewhere in between that for me. I was maybe feeling a little more when I would sit, but it never clicked until I went and learned Vedic meditation, and literally that first meditation was like life-changing.
And I think people think that's an exaggeration. Like, there's no way. It's like, yeah, actually, when you learn the mechanics. And I liken it to swimming. Like, everyone can relate to swimming. People who swim had an experience of not being able to swim, and the water was your enemy. Learning how to move your body through the water, and then it's actually quite fun being in the water.
Yeah.
And that's how people feel about meditation. When you don't know how to navigate through your mind, you get drowned by your thoughts, and it feels like the enemy.
Yep.
But when you learn how to do that, it's actually quite enjoyable, and you can just frolic around and have a great old time.
Yep. And just show up to it.
Within a day.
Yep. Within a day, it clicks.
Yeah.
But you got to find a teacher. It's like a long lineage of teachers. Yeah.
You got to find a swimming coach. Like, you can't teach yourself how to swim.
That's true. That would be dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Somebody has to. Dangerous.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So I learned meditation from Emily Fletcher, who I think she learned from Tom Knowles as well, or someone under Tom.
She learned from someone under. She learned from that guy I went on the hike with.
No way.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. There's like this lineage of teachers who all teach this Vedic meditation. That's what I got my mom on. And yeah, it's been a life-changing.
Sounds like a drug. I got my mom on.
I got my mom on them on that meditation. You know, she's addicted. It is though for me, even though I'm like in and out of my practice. When it's a twice a day practice, 20 minutes a session, twice a day. When I am in my practice, my life is always better.
Mm-hmm. And think about that. Like, if everyone, forget about everyone. That's unreal. Let's say if 50% of people woke up and sat down with their eyes closed and just meditated for 15 or 20 minutes, like how different the world would be, how different society would be.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it was that French philosopher Blaise Pascal who said, man's biggest problem is his inability to sit in a room by himself and just be quiet for a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. You know how
Everything
much that
comes back
scares
to
people?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It scares us all. It scares me at times. When I've been like, when I've been off my practice and kind of like running in my mind and surviving things, I'm literally avoiding just sitting down with myself and being here.
Ramey's meditating right now. She was like, this sounds great. Let me just close my eyes.
Yeah. See, Ramey's learning. We're all learning. We're all learning.
Whatever it takes.
Vedic meditation has been a profound like shift in my life and my mom's, man. Like, you know, she was in her 50s when she learned, and she's been so on her practice. And like, when I tell people, it's like a subtle but powerful shift in your life. It's subtle. Like, it's a soft change. It happens slowly, but like my mom is like less reactive, you know? She's like, man, things happen, and like, I just don't immediately react. I just kind of have a little more grounding and a little more peace to what I'm confronting.
Yeah, it's like microdosing without having to microdose.
Exactly. And also these days, I know a lot of people who are like, I'm microdosing.
Everyone's microdosing.
And they're macrodosing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're on mushrooms. That's not a microdose,
It's
bud.
the body's own form of psilocybin.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an old human technology too.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
So did you continue, once you kind of found your path of Tom Knowles and meditation and becoming a teacher for it, did you continue doing your Can't Touch Your Toes yoga?
I kept teaching until I started teaching meditation, and then meditation teaching became a full-time gig for me.
Cool.
In 2007. And then it's interesting because I had those experiences before I learned Vedic meditation. It was kind of like the not being able to touch your toes experiences. I knew how to relate to people as a teacher who were coming from the school of, the monastic tradition, sitting with your back straight, your legs crossed, being in pain, staring at the back of your eyelids, not knowing if anything's happening. So I could talk about that in a very accessible way.
Yeah.
And as a result, I was able to get through to a lot of regular people very quickly, and became a pretty popular meditation teacher as well. And then I started writing about it. So my first book was about happiness, but it was really about meditation as a way of cultivating happiness from the inside out. And then I did a TED talk about that. And then the second book came out, which was a how-to meditate book, because I wanted, I was very expensive for regular people to come and learn with.
Sure.
And I wanted everyone to have access to these principles. So, I wanted people who flip burgers, who drive trucks, who work at gas stations and stuff to be able to have access to this information, because 90% of the people I work with were just, well-off white people.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is interesting, but it's not that interesting anymore. So I wrote this book, and, I put it out in the world, and, people started having very powerful experiences, and I was very happy with that. Because one of the sayings in the meditation community is you can't learn how to meditate from a book, in the same way that you probably can't learn how to swim from a book unless you're really committed.
Right.
So I was proud of the fact that people were getting something from it, enough to be able to have an experience. And then my brother went to jail because of some white collar stuff several years later. And he never inquired about meditation. I mean, they were very supportive. When my books would come out, they'd buy a few copies. And I remember sitting at their house, one of my brother's houses. He'd bought probably 4 or 5 copies. And we're all sitting there having a little family event in Atlanta. And I turn and look, and I see my books are like a lampstand. Like no one had ever even cracked one open. So
they got you the sales, but
they got me the sales, but they weren't
on
as that interested to actually read the book.
Yeah.
So anyways, he goes to jail, and he starts saying, hey, can you send me that book on meditation, Bliss More? And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll send it to you. I didn't send it to him. I was like, he's not going to read it, whatever. And then he asks me again the next time we talk. And, we only have 15 minutes to talk, because when you're in jail, your calls are only a maximum 15 minutes, and they keep getting interrupted every minute. This is the federal prison of da-da-da. So I figure he must really want this book if he's taking up this precious time to talk about it.
Yeah.
So finally, you can send prisoners Amazon books. You can just order it on Amazon. So I sent him the book, and then later on he said, yeah, I started reading that book, and I've been doing some meditation. It's kind of nice. And then about 2 months later, I go to visit him in prison. He was only there for a year, but I go to visit in prison. We're sitting in the prison visitation room, and all the prisoners are wearing their, looks like a green gardener outfit. So they're all sitting there with their family and friends, and they're visiting. And I'm just sitting with him, just like you and I are talking. And he says, you see that guy over there in the corner? And we look, and it's just another prisoner with like a green outfit on. And I was like, yeah. He goes, that's the head of the meditation club in the prison. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, after I read your book and I started using it to meditate, I gave it to some other guys, and he eventually had the book, and he read it, and he started having these experiences, and he was so taken by it that he decided to teach other guys meditation, and now that's his thing. He's like the meditation guru of the prison.
Dude.
And I was like, that's exactly what I wrote the book for.
Yeah.
So that it can spread in ways and in places that I would probably not be found in teaching.
Right. That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, it's something everyone can access. Yeah. That book's called Bliss More.
Bliss More, How to Succeed in Meditation Without Really Trying.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's a way to learn it without
Really
coming
trying.
and learning from you, without taking the course.
It's a way to understand the principles.
Cool.
So a lot of times what people don't realize is that when it comes to self-help books,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize this either until I was writing that book, but I had to write that book twice. Because originally I was talking to the publisher, which was Penguin Random House, which is like the biggest publisher.
Yeah.
And one of the most reputable publishers.
Yeah.
And they said, we want your book to show people how to meditate. So I thought, okay, I facilitate these 4-day long trainings where there's a lot of practice, there's a lot of information. So I put all that into the book because I really wanted people to learn how to meditate. And I turned in the manuscript, and it had all of these breaks, these reading breaks where people put the book down, go and practice, come back and finish reading. And my editor says, oh, no. We can't publish this. I was like, why not? She said, because you don't want people putting the book down. You never want people putting the book down.
Yeah. They might not come back to it.
Yeah, they may not come back to it. You want this to be a book that they read straight through on a flight from Los Angeles to New York. So in about 5 or 6 hours. So I said, but I thought you wanted me to write how to meditate. She goes, no. What you have to do is you have to write how meditation works. So in other words, you explain the mechanics, but you don't actually teach someone. If they want to learn how to meditate, they can take your training or something like that later.
Right.
So that was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because that's how all the self-help books are. So when you're thinking of, I'm going to go learn X, Y, and Z through a self-help book, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to learn the mechanics of it and how it works, but you're not going to learn actually how to do it.
Right.
And the drills you need to incorporate and the practices that you need to do in order and the timing and all of that stuff.
Right. You're going to learn principles.
Yeah, which is why you can read 1,000 books and your life doesn't really change all that much because all you're getting is knowledge and information. You're not really getting the application and the embodiment of this information. And this is any self-help book. This is not just my meditation book. But I didn't know that about self-help books.
Right.
But it actually helped me because now I stopped relying so much on self-help books and I started becoming more invested in trainings and courses, which is what you really have to do if you want to take things to the next level. So I rewrote Bliss More to be a book about how meditation works. And even still, it's been very applicable for people who really are determined to have an experience.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because once you lay out the kind of principles and mechanics, I get that some people go like, okay, I at least feel equipped to try. At least feel equipped to explore this. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah, it's been, I'm happy it's out there because now whenever I meet people, inevitably somebody's going to say, oh, I want to learn how to meditate. And it's like, okay, well, I can't teach you on this plane or I can't teach you on this over dinner, but you can read this book. Yeah. There's an audio book. They even did a Blinkist version of the book. You know Blinkist?
Yeah, it's like a
they do the
truncated
Cliff
version.
Note, summary version of books.
Yeah.
And I heard it, I saw it on YouTube. Somebody had put it on YouTube and I was like, oh, let me listen to this bullshit and see how they butchered the book. And I listened to it and actually it was really good.
Nice.
Like,
nice.
They did a great job summarizing this.
Nice.
So I send that to people now.
Yeah.
Because, some people just don't even have the interest to invest, 3 hours into an audiobook. So
our attention spans are all shrinking.
Yeah. So listen to this 20-minute long version. And
thank
if that
goodness for
entices
Blinkist.
You enough, then you can listen to the whole audio or read the whole book.
Or eventually find a Vedic teacher teaching a course.
Exactly.
And
so there's something for
real thing.
everybody at this point.
I love that. Yeah, I would love for everyone to be meditating. Mm-hmm. It's fun when I meet people who do Vedic meditation and I didn't know, and then you can like sit and meditate together. It's wonderful.
It's one of the most beautiful shared experiences other than sex.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Seriously, like
no,
and the best is sex,
I just had so many jokes going through my mind, and I couldn't
meditation.
pick one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now that's the best. That's
the ultimate.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, have the full ecstatic.
Well, sex with somebody you want to be,
Well, yeah. I mean, that was
have
implied.
a deep connection
Yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah. Have the full ecstatic experience and then just sit and like dwell
meditate.
together.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Or meditation and sex, either way.
Whichever way you want to do it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And you wrote a new book.
Yes. So after Blissmore, I wrote a book called Knowing Where to Look, 108 Daily Doses of Inspiration, which was based. So this is an interesting story. So when I got the deal to write Blissmore, I had written one self-published book called The Inner Gym. It took me 3.5 years to write The Inner Gym because I kept stopping and starting. It was my first book. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I did write it in such a way that people would put the book down and pick it back up, which was absolutely the wrong way to write the book. So the publisher was right about that.
Yeah.
But I was insecure about my ability to write after writing that first book, The Inner Gym. And so when I got the Blissmore deal, it was a pretty decent deal by publishing industry standards. It was a 6-figure advance for what I was technically still a first-time author, published author,
right?
Even though I'd done a self-published book, based on my platform, and I had started this nonprofit thing called The Shine at the time. So I got a lot of organic press from that. And I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to let myself down. I wanted this to become obvious. I mean, every author envisions themselves becoming a New York Times bestseller. So I needed to practice. I felt like I needed to practice my writing. And in order to do that, I needed to paint myself into a corner that in such a way that I had a hard deadline to write. So I decided I'm going to start sending out this daily email, and that it was going to be going out every morning at 6 a.m. Pacific time. And it was going to be called the Light's Daily Dose of Inspiration. And that was going to be my way of practicing writing and telling stories.
Yep.
So I started doing that June 6, 2016. And I remember that date because I celebrate the anniversary. I just passed the 7-year anniversary a week ago.
Nice.
And
that's still going out? Or
that's still going out.
It's
No,
still
no,
going
it's
out?
still going out. Yeah, 7+ years.
Whew.
7 years and a week or so. That's over 2,500 daily emails.
That's commitment.
Never miss a day.
Woof.
So I don't have a whole lot of, sleeping in experiences or late nights or anything like that.
Dang, man.
In 7 years.
Jeez.
But I also haven't gotten sick in 7 years. Not too sick to write. And
Wow.
I feel like having that mission has been a bit of my life and my health insurance.
Yeah.
When you're on your purpose, when you're on your path, the universe will look after you. Will have your back when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
And Maya Angelou said something interesting. She said, "You're never going to run out of creativity because creativity generates creativity." And that was my experience, because one of my biggest fears when I hit send on the first email was that I was going to run out of ideas after 3 or 4 weeks. And sure enough, after 3 or 4 weeks, I ran out of ideas. But I had been meditating for, 14 years at that point. So I remember one night, it was very late. I had nothing to write. It had to go out the next morning. I was tired. I just wanted to go to bed. And I was like, I knew this was going to happen. And I just sat on my couch, put my laptop to the side, closed my eyes, and just sat there for like 5 or 6 minutes. And, after you've been meditating for a little while, you don't have to actually start the meditation. You just facilitate the experience.
Just get in the
sit
space.
there and close your eyes, and then you'll just drop right in.
Mm-hmm.
So I dropped into this sort of meditative state, and then this idea came through, this story came through from my past, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's the next email. So I quickly wrote it down, and then that started happening more and more. And that's when I realized, oh my God, Maya Angelou was correct.
Yeah.
All I have to do is show up.
Yeah.
If I just keep showing up and facilitating this experience, my muse or the universe, whatever you want to call it, is going to feed me ideas.
Yes, sir.
And ever since then, I would say probably 40% of the emails I've sent out are from that. And so the third book, Knowing Where to Look, was a compilation of 108 of the greatest hits, if you will, of those daily emails.
Cool.
Where I got to refine my storytelling abilities, got to become a better writer. And then I got the inspiration because I was now looking for inspiration every day by writing inspirational emails. It's kind of, imagine if you had a blog called Red Cars, and all you do every day is you look for red cars, right? If you go to the average person and go, how many red cars did you see yesterday? They probably be like, I
have no idea.
See any. Yeah, maybe one, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if someone's job is to look for red cars, they can tell you, oh, I saw there were 18 red cars yesterday. There was 25 the day before. There was 42 the day before that.
Right.
I've seen 8 so far today, right?
Right.
Because they're paying attention.
Right. And
So-
training themselves to pay attention.
Yeah. So when you're writing a daily inspirational email, every conversation you're having, you're thinking about, okay, what's the golden nugget? What's the gem in this
Sure.
experience? If you're having experience on an airplane, wherever you are, traffic, you're
Sure.
you're looking for inspiration.
Yeah.
So I found myself inspired in 2017, 2018 to start to live a nomadic existence. And then I was like, I don't know, this is kind of crazy. My friend who I went on that hike with, who called me out on my inflexibility, he had actually gone nomadic a year before that, and he had moved to Bali. And so he was inspiring. I was just seeing inspirational, nudging me in this direction of sell all your stuff and just be on the road and be nomadic. And so finally decided to listen to that. And May 31st, 2018, I rolled my carry-on bag with all of my belongings out of my 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica. And I became nomadic. And I didn't know how long it was going to last. I was promoting Bliss More at the time, so I had a few dates with this festival called Wanderlust to present at Wanderlust, and that kind of helped me travel around a bit. But then I was just like all over the place. I was teaching meditation all over the world. I was going to London, New York, doing retreats, Morocco, Italy. I mean, I was just like thinking, where do I want to go? I was just literally living my life on inspiration.
Wow.
And so through that experience, I decided that I had too much shit. I had packed all the stuff in my carry-on bag. Now, you would think carry-on bag with all your belongings, that's not enough room, but actually I had too much stuff because I got tired of lugging this carry-on bag all around. So I went through it and I was like, okay, let me see what I really need here. And I was able to downsize to a 40-liter backpack. So I got this Patagonia backpack and I was carrying that around. And I was like, man, this is heavy. You ever carry a 40-liter backpack around all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's heavy on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And then I was like, there's got to be some other way to scale down even more. This is like maybe a year later. And I went on YouTube and I learned how to hand wash my clothes, which I never knew how to do before. Man, that was a game changer. Because
Washing
then,
a sink and dry?
Yeah. But there's like a little technique, you know, it's a way to dry. Because I tried it before, but I could never get the clothes dry enough so that they were wearable the next day.
Right.
I would have to wait 4 days for the clothes to dry.
Right.
So I learned how to do it where they can dry in like 5 hours.
Okay.
So I could literally hand wash my clothes that I wore that day in the sink at night, hang them up to dry. And then by the morning, it was like I had fresh clothes in the hotel room or wherever I was staying. And so I was able to get rid of half the shit in my 40-liter backpack. And now I'm down to a day pack.
Woof. Dude, I was going to ask you. I was like, you don't like underwear or socks
no,
or
I
like
have all that. So here's the thing. I can do that. And I'm still doing my podcast.
Yeah.
From the day pack. I'm still working out every day from the day pack. I'm still giving keynote speeches on big stages from the day pack with blazer on and everything.
Yeah.
Still teaching meditation.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you learned meditation? You had the little ceremony with the gold tray and all that. I got all that shit in my
gear.
the puja is in the day pack. That's actually the biggest thing in my backpack right now is the puja gear. And you know, got a little jacket. So I can hot air balloon, dating, everything. I can do everything and the idea is to not look like I live in a backpack.
Right,
you know?
right.
To actually look.
Yeah, you look fresh, man.
Yeah, to look fresh, exactly. Yeah. So it's been an interesting. So that became the next book, Travel. I was like, I got to write about this.
Yeah.
Because once you've written a few books, you start thinking in books.
Sure.
Just like if you're a director of movies, you start thinking, oh, this will be a great movie. Or if you're a songwriter, this will be a great song.
Absolutely. So, life, you're just looking for it.
Yeah. So I wrote about it and I called it spiritual minimalism.
Yeah.
Which is not, it's not about getting rid of all your stuff and living in a backpack. That was my journey.
Right. It's
about when you take time to cultivate fulfillment inside through practices like meditation, gratitude, it will, your intuition will nudge you in a certain direction. And usually that direction is less about acquiring things and more about giving things.
Yeah.
And so
it's good, man.
So you're able to let go of not just material items, but you can let go of that toxic relationship you've been holding on to for 10 years.
Yes.
You can let go of that soul-sucking job you've been holding on to, thinking that that was the source of your happiness for the last 15 years. Yeah. You ever let go of a habit, drinking or drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
A past identity.
Past identity, past belief.
Well worn out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can have the most Zen-like space in your apartment, but if you're still holding on to that identity or that toxic relationship or that job, then you're always carrying that around with you. So you're not really the minimalist you think you are. Yeah. So true minimalism, I say, is inside out minimalism, which is awesome. What I call spiritual minimalism.
Yeah. That's awesome. And outside minimalism. Because, man.
Maybe not. I don't know. You can go in my apartment right now in Mexico City. It would not look like a minimalist lives there.
Sure. Okay.
Because I can't just go in there and start throwing shit away. You know, that's not my apartment.
Yeah.
I'm staying there.
Yeah.
But I technically only have a backpack's worth of stuff.
That's yours,
That's mine within the apartment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of little, loopholes in this in this thing. But here's the quick question. Do I need that apartment to make me happy?
Right.
That's the true test of if you're a minimalist or not.
Right.
What are you clinging on to?
Right.
And if it's no longer relevant for you as evidenced by how you feel inside, if you feel tension, friction, anger, sadness, fear, whatever, and you can't let go, then that thing is clearly not serving you.
Something to look at least. Yeah. Something to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so interesting, man, because I don't know. I've noticed over many years of living in LA and moving from apartment to apartment, like every time I move is like a big purging time, and it's wonderful to I have to move. So then you go through literally everything and you get rid of things you don't want anymore. But man, do we just acquire shit in our life? And I guess that goes for internally too, but externally I can see it in my apartment. Like just from living, just
the trunk
stuff.
of your car has a bunch of shit in it. I noticed.
You saw. Yeah, you saw. Like stuff just builds, right? Like whether I try to or not, it's not even like I'm going out and buying, but like stuff just accumulates in our spaces. Mm-hmm. And it really does take a practice of like getting clear and decluttering, and I don't need this anymore, and letting it go. And it's like right now, my garage is a mess, okay? Mm-hmm. Right now, I have a just cluttered garage that needs to be dealt with. I'm gonna get to it pretty soon. But I know if I want to move eventually from this place, like this project that I'm putting off is holding me where I'm at. Mm-hmm. The more I can let go of things and simplify what I have, the easier it is for me to follow my inspiration in life.
Right.
It's the easier it is to like move and be fluid, I guess, because I'm not like bogged down by all this stuff. And I like that you're drawing the relationship between that externally and internally. Like, I guess it's both, man.
Yeah, I love that example too, because I think it's a very relatable example, right? So if someone were to say to you, you have 2 weeks to become a minimalist, you may think, okay, the first step is I need to go in that garage and start cleaning it out. But that's not really how it works, okay? The first step may be attacking this project, or attacking, or addressing, having a honest conversation with somebody who you've been avoiding.
Sure.
Right?
That builds up.
Or go to the gym. I'm not saying you specifically, but, or go start eating healthy or something.
Right.
Like your inner guidance is always nudging you in some direction to address something that's going on in your life.
Yep.
And usually it's the thing that you're telling yourself, I don't have time to do right now. When life slows down, then I'll probably get to that.
Yep.
Right? I need to really focus on this room though.
Yep.
But the way the heart voice works, the inner guidance works is, first of all, we make a mistake in thinking that the dream that we have is something that we want to do, and then everything that's happening around us is what's in our way of doing it. But actually, the dream that you have has been installed within you. It's in your spiritual DNA. It's in your genetic encoding, right? That's where that dream comes from.
Yeah.
It didn't originate in your mind. It originated in your heart.
Yeah.
So your heart voice, your inner guidance is giving you the blueprint to achieving that dream.
Yeah.
Not to make you happy, but to offer something to the world. And so the inclination to go to the gym or to eat healthy or to have that honest conversation is the first step in achieving the dream.
Yeah.
So when you go have the conversation and you get some kind of epiphany or realization or shared experience, and then that leads you to the next step, which may be go to the bookstore and get a book on radical authenticity or whatever. You're in the bookstore and you're standing in the aisle looking for that book. They don't have the book, but guess what? Someone else is in the aisle. They have on a certain pair of shoes you think are interesting. You compliment their shoes, strike up a conversation. You guys become associates. They invite you to a pool party in Sherman Oaks. You end up at this pool party. Lo and behold, you meet someone who you fall in love with. You start this relationship. It starts to take you down this whole labyrinth of experiences, which then culminates in you forming a connection with someone or something that helps you achieve that big dream that your heart installed within you, however many years ago.
Yeah.
But we think there's a direct path to achieving this. I need to network. I need to go get new business cards. I need to make more money.
Yeah.
I need to
nicer apartment, nicer car.
Right. And it had nothing to do with your garage. It had nothing to do with your room. But once you start living your purpose, once you start feeling like, okay, I'm really on my path right now, you don't want to live in a shitty apartment. You don't want to live with a bunch of clutter around you. It's like what Issa Rae once said, who created this show called Insecure.
Yep, which is fantastic.
She said, when I started living my purpose, it was easy to get up early in the morning. Before, it was so hard to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
But now that I'm sort of creating this thing for the world, I want to wake up early. I don't want to drink as much. I don't want to go out all night partying. So she didn't have to address all that. She just had to move in the direction of her purpose.
Can you speak to or offer a little nugget of advice to maybe a listener out there who doesn't know what their purpose is?
Yes. So principle number 5 of spiritual minimalism.
Okay.
Right. That's the subtitle of the book. So Travel Light, Spiritual Minimalism to Live a More Fulfilled Life. So it's 7 principles. Principle number 1, cultivate your heart voice.
Okay.
Principle number 2 is to make your most important decisions from your heart and not from your head. It doesn't mean that you can never make intellectual decisions. It's just that when it comes to the most important decisions, you make those from your heart. And then there's other principles. Give what you want to receive, leave places better than you found them. Mm-hmm. So principle number 5 addresses this idea of I don't know what my purpose is, because I hear this all the time. Yeah. I write about purpose. Inevitably, I always get replies from people, I don't know what my purpose is. Yeah. I don't know if I have a purpose. And that's fine. All that means is that the other voices in your consciousness are so loud. The voice of fear, the voice of pain, the voice of social conditioning, the voice of your parents, your teachers, society, the news you watch. All those voices are so loud that it drowns out that what they call the still small voice, which is the voice of your inner guidance, right? That's fine too. Mm-hmm. But nature has something that can override all this stuff, right? Because this is not our first rodeo as humans, actually, according to the spiritual traditions. We've done this before. And so some things resonate, and the things that do resonate as curiosities in our lives are the gateways to our purpose. Mm-hmm. So in other words, don't worry about finding your purpose. Follow your curiosity and your purpose will find you. Mm. Follow your curiosity. Okay, what are you talking about curiosity? Whatever you're curious about. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
That little could be video games.
Of interest. Yeah.
It could be watching a lot of television. It could be dancing on TikTok, whatever it is. Yeah. And I've used these examples because these are things that tend to get made fun of, trivialized, shamed.
That's not purpose.
So if I'm a grown-ass man and I'm dancing on TikTok, I may really love that, but my friends and my family are like, man, what the hell are you doing? You're wasting your time. You know, you're not a real man. You know, they start shaming you because that's what we do to each other. We shame each other if they're not falling in line with convention.
Yeah.
And there's this guy, in fact, on TikTok who has these dancing videos. There's this white dude in England, and he has this long hair, he's big beard, and he like dances with these tight pants on. And he became viral for doing this.
Yeah. And
he posted something. He said, guys, today is my last day at my job. I can't believe this happened, but I'm finally able to do these videos and make a living from doing these videos. And it's like, I've never been happier in my entire life.
How beautiful.
And people may look at that and go, oh, okay, that was the day that he started living his purpose. No, the day he started living his purpose was the day he gave himself permission to keep posting those videos.
Yeah.
When nobody thought he was using his time wisely.
Yeah.
And he kept showing up, and he kept showing up, and he kept doing it for the love of doing it.
He had a natural, curiosity, inclination to it.
And being able to leave his job, which is a side effect of that.
Yeah.
And we all have our version of that. What's your version of dancing with your fucking shirt off, with your belly hanging out, with tight pants on TikTok? What's that embarrassing thing that your heart is telling you to do?
Amazing.
Because that's the other mistake we make, is we think the heart is going to make us more if I listen to my heart, I'm going to find my purpose, I'm going to be happy, and everything's going to come together and be in the flow. No. It's going to stretch you. It's going to push you out of your comfort zone. That's the only way growth happens. That's how you're going to get into your potential. You have to get stretched.
Yeah.
Which means you have to face societal conditioning.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to do it.
Nope.
But once you start doing that and you give yourself permission, because that's the only person that's going to give you permission to do this fully is yourself. So that's a requirement. You follow your curiosity, you give yourself permission, and you just keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up. And eventually you won't want to do anything else.
Incredible. I think that's a wonderful answer to that. And I go in and out of being clear on my purpose in my life, but I have stayed attuned to that voice in my heart, and I've like followed that, and it's kind of never led me wrong.
It's your GPS.
That's it. It's the
It's
guidance
like driving
system.
around in a new city and you're trying to eyeball the directions.
No.
You don't know where you're going.
No,
You have to follow the GPS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know the path.
Yeah. Everyone has it.
Yeah.
And the way you make it louder is you follow it.
Yeah.
If you ignore it,
yeah, because
you're following somebody else's GPS,
yeah,
you're going to make your voice
and
quieter.
You're going to get lost.
And you're going to get lost. You're going to still get there, but it's going to take you a lot more time, a lot more pain, turn around a lot more scary situations. And you can avoid all of that by just having the courage to stay loyal to your heart voice.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Light, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I loved getting a chance to talk to you. I've wanted to for a minute now. So I'm glad we got to connect on this. And your book, Travel Light, is out. By the time we're releasing this, it's out.
Yes.
Bliss More, for those who want to kind of get into meditation. If you want to start being interested in meditation, if you felt like you couldn't before, check out Bliss More.
Yep. Travel Light has some minimalism tips about meditation, but if you really want to go all in and just make meditation a thing, then I would say get Bliss More.
Fantastic.
Sure.
And you're on Instagram, and you have a podcast as well, Light Watkins?
Light Watkins Show, Instagram, Light Watkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, on all the socials at Light Watkins, and then lightwatkins.com.
And if you want that daily dose of inspiration that Light has been writing for 7 years straight without a day off, my goodness, that is almost too much consistency, Light, okay? Like, settle down, all right? Last question. Can you touch your toes?
Barely.
I can't touch.
But it doesn't even matter anymore.
It doesn't
right?
matter. It doesn't matter, and I can't touch my toes, so I'm not judging. Okay, Light. I've
never gotten a date from somebody who said, "Hey, you can touch your toes."
Exactly. Go follow Light. Find your inspiration. Follow your curiosity. Thanks for being here, guys. All of Light's infos will be in the YouTube comments, or the details. Love you.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks for being here.